Today we're here to talk about how to avoid and minimize injury when training the press to handstand. I'm Jesse Kitson-Abelson from the Movement Athlete, and we're going to get right down to the basics of how you can avoid injury overall. So the biggest thing is if you're unfamiliar with how to bail or fall out of a handstand or press to handstand, that's going to be the biggest contributor to how you might injure yourself. So you've got to be familiar with how to roll out of it or pirouette or cartwheel out of your half handstand or actual handstand so you don't face it or flat back to the floor, because that's the first big case of potential injury right there. So in addition to knowing how to fall, it's important that you follow our whole list of prerequisites for the press to handstand before doing them, because if you don't have static handstand on its own, pressing to a handstand without having that skill is not a good idea. So follow the prerequisites, and in addition to that, we'll show you our top tips on how to minimize or avoid injury on press to handstands coming up. So as we mentioned before, one of our top tips on how to avoid injury is knowing how to fall properly. So we'll show you a few different variations of how to fall out of a press to handstand or handstand. So first one is going to be a cartwheel or pirouette type of movement out of the handstand. So just turning the shoulders, shifting and posting on one arm, and turning this into what looks like a cartwheel or a pirouette. You're avoiding any kind of face planting or smashing into the ground. Our next version will be showing rolling. So falling out of the handstand into a forward roll. So notice that the arms and hands are still pushing on the floor for pressure, but curling the body up into a smaller position so it smoothly rolls on the floor. And the third version will be falling into a bridge if you have that position. So if your shoulders are open enough, this one will be a good version too. So just falling into a bridge, taking some of the weight onto the feet as well as the hands instead of the neck, the back. Those problem areas we don't want to be hitting so much. Okay, so those are three good ways to fall out of a press to handstand, because you will be falling when you train this skill. It's inevitable. If you're going to be achieving this and you don't have it yet, you will be falling. So those are three good ways to fall out of a press to handstand to avoid injury. The environment will be another key piece to look at when avoiding injury. If you're training a press to handstand with concrete and walls and really hard surfaces all around you, that's an easy way to get hurt as well. So looking at the environment, if you have mats, panel mats, foam mats, if you're going into a gymnastics gym, something where you can fall and be fine. Falling on hard ground is the quickest way to injury if you're learning this. So the environment is one of our key pieces to avoiding injury. So a simple way to help avoid wrist pain with press to handstands will be in reference to the way you place your hands on the floor or the apparatus. So coming onto the floor, we'll use Blake as the example here. So placing the fingers, let's go 12 o'clock first. So his hands are facing completely forward, and there's pretty much a 90-degree angle in his wrists. And that can get pretty difficult, especially because in the press you have to lean more forwards and the shoulders go forwards, and this angle intensifies by getting smaller. So we can alleviate some pain by turning the wrists sideways a little bit or all the way, depending on what can work. Now the downside is there's a little bit less finger engagement for balance in the press to handstand, but you'll find the wrists will have less pressure on them. Works well if you're at the wall. It's fine to lean forward, balance as much as freestanding. And then the other version is using parallettes. If you see here, when Blake goes onto the parallettes, his wrists are a little bit more neutral in the angle than they were on the floor. So they're turned to the side essentially, and they're a bigger angle technically, almost more than 90 degrees, less pressure on the wrist. Give those a try, that should be less pressure on the wrist. While we're talking about wrist placement and wrists in general, it is a key place that tends to hurt a lot when people do handstands and press to handstands. So we also want to talk about a little bit of wrist preparation. We'll show you some exercises. So the first one call it the wrist four ways, where you're really isolating the wrist here. This is just resting on top of the, in this case, a block. It could be any kind of supporting structure, but we're going to be going in this upward motion first of wrist flexion and extension. So we can really go, depending on the weight, 10 to 20 reps for this. And we'll really hit up all quarters. So rotating 90 degrees, going in this invert, evert, and invert with the wrist. And then facing up. More flexion. And this is our last quadrant facing this position. So wrist four ways is our first one. And now to some groundwork. We'll be doing some different wrist push-ups. So Blake has his hands facing forwards, and the forward or backward lean really intensifies this or makes it easier. So he's simply trying to push the palm of his hand off the floor, generating this from the forearms and the wrists. So if he leans forward, this gets more difficult. Obviously, if he goes onto his feet and his knees are off the floor, that makes it more difficult as well. And we can also do this in different variations. You can have the hands out to the side, and same idea, wrist push-up so the palms come off the floor. And the other version we want to show you will be with the palm facing up and with the arm straight and closing up to a fist. And same idea, we can have the palms facing in different directions. And again, make sure to not overdo this one. It's really easy. This is an awkward position for the hand to be in. We don't really apply stress in this way so much, but when training to press the handstand, we need to strengthen the wrist in as many ways as we can. And notice that Blake has the arm straight. He's doing two hands at once. You can do one, you can do both. You can add push-ups to this. There are a whole bunch of more variations, but we just want to show you a few different simple ones to add in to make sure the wrist is getting stronger, because it is no doubt that this will start to give pain to most people, if not you, in the press to handstand work. So that's a great way to avoid injury with the wrists. Progressive overload. And what this means is not jumping into something too fast, too soon. So if you just learning your press to handstand and are hopping into reps of 10s, 20s, whatever it is, or a range of motion that you're forcing too much of, then that's another quick way to injury. So progressive overload with a ramp, testing out smaller reps before increasing the workload will be key. So progressive overload. Warming up properly is another key piece. So if you don't warm up properly, your body's not prepared to do these movements, which requires a great deal of hip flexibility, mobility, same with the shoulders. So warming up properly is essential. Being able to achieve all of the prerequisites that we outline in our other press to handstand videos. So take a look at those and find if there are any holes missing, such as if you cannot do a pancake, or if you do not have good wrist preparation yet, or again, if you don't have a handstand. If you do not have a static handstand and you're learning the press, you might fall out of it and don't have the strength to get to that final position or have the stability. So follow the prerequisites, see if there's anything you can identify, because having a strong foundation along the way, you will be avoiding injury. So again, to wrap it up, knowing how to fall is key. Making sure that you have a good environment to train in, so you have soft padding if possible, wrist placement or using an apparatus, wrist strength, progressive overload, warming up properly, and being able to achieve our prerequisites. These items will help you stay injury-free when training your press to handstand. Good luck. So how strong are you? Calisthenics is the ultimate in bodyweight training because it's fun, challenging, and rewarding, but it's also difficult to know where to start in the whole process. So that's why we created a free calisthenics fitness assessment. And what this will do is it'll help you find out exactly where you are in your pathway of calisthenics mastery. It'll help create personalized workouts for you. It'll help you achieve your goals faster. So we want everyone to have access to this regardless of their budget and location. So as long as you have internet, you'll be able to take control of your fitness program. So click below for the free assessment tool.